Is there an increase? I'm not sure that there's an increase, but there's certainly an increase in the detection rate that we are seeing at the moment. And let's just explain a little bit why. Firstly, you mentioned Captain Mabunda in your run-up to the program.
Yeah.
And due to awesome work by SAPS members like Captain Mabunda, in conjunction with the insurance industry and other parties, we are able to increase the detection rate. So it's always been happening. It's always been there. The insurance industry is working very hard to identify and mitigate the risk, as well as eliminate these individuals from the environment in which we live. So is it increasing? Don't really know, but we are definitely able to detect and mitigate that risk more effectively now as an industry.
Yeah, because I think that one of the concerns the media may have is that we report in these stories, and then there's the fear that you might be inspiring other crimes that could possibly take place, which is really a frightening thought. But talk to me about the evidence that becomes available from an insurance company point of view that then is shared with investigators like Mr. Keshi, Sergeant Keshi Mabunda, for instance, right? What the paperwork would look like in some of the telltale signs that go, well, hold on, there's a red flag right there.
Sure. So the Insurance Crime Bureau is a non-profit organization. We were created by the insurance industry to centralize and produce intelligence where there's a possibility of syndicated fraud. And this is the type of investigation where we would say there's an individual or individuals that are involved in committing crimes in order to derive financial benefit. We apply a lot of artificial intelligence, which is the buzzword these days, on all of the insurance data sets, and we look for commonalities. I'm not going to go too deep into what those commonalities are, but we are able to then produce intelligence and work with people like Captain Mabunda to investigate these type of cases.
Yeah, and can you talk to me about, and I know you can't really talk about some of the red flags and the similarities that you'd pick up, or the patterns, right? Understandably. But I'm also quite curious to hear that where we have seen, insurance killings take place, that a lot of the time the suspect would not use the same insurance company, right? That they do actually hop around, and so I'm sure that collating that evidence then becomes quite a task, because you've got to look at quite a few institutions.
Correct, and that's why the Insurance Crime Bureau and parties like the Insurance Crime Bureau are so important, because we're able to bring together multiple players within the industry. If this individual went across all of those players and they were working in silos, it would be very difficult to detect what they were up to. But because we have access to multiple insurance companies in the industry, it's easier for us as an industry to now identify these individuals.
Yeah. Is there a gap in I suppose, the availability of policies that allows for these crimes to continue, that perhaps needs to be corrected by the insurance companies themselves? I suppose a due diligence that's necessary to ensure that the intentions here are in the right place. Is that too far to ask?
It's a difficult question, because let's take a look at Rosemary, because that case has been through court. This case has similarities, but I don't want to discuss it in too much detail. But if you take a look at Rosemary, all of the lives that Rosemary insured had what you call an insured interest. There was nothing incorrect in the insurance policies that she incepted. It was not illegal for her to take out cover on her family, her mother, etc. What was illegal was the act of murder. And that's where the problem comes in, is that allegedly in this particular case, the individuals all had a relationship with the perpetrator. So the act of taking out insurance is not illegal. I can take insurance on my wife, for example. I'm not allowed to commit an act of murder in order to benefit from that insurance.
Yeah. Naturally. Then it begs the question where the investigations then start, right? Because, as you say, it's not illegal to take out an insurance policy on someone, but certainly and obviously it is illegal to kill them for that policy. But when the investigation starts, and perhaps we look at the Rosemary example, the investigation that Keshi Mabunda, for instance, would have gone through with Rosemary, would it have started with the murders or with the claims? So where did he look first?
So in that particular case, Captain Mabunda was present in the office when Rosemary came to verify multiple documents related to claims. And that's where he was able to first pick up and say, hold on a second, there's an issue here. So we start in a variety of places. It depends on the case. The issue that we have in these cases is that they are committed over a period of time. And again, it's very difficult to develop a trend on one incident. So if you insure your husband and he unfortunately is hit by a truck in the middle of the road, it's not a trend. If you insure your second husband and he falls off a cliff, start to become a little bit more suspicious. If your third husband is insured and he is then dies of poisoning, now you've got a trend and now you've got red flags that you can start to take a look at. And typically these cases don't happen over a matter of weeks. It goes over, in both cases, multiple years.
Yeah.
So we really have to be quite sharp in picking up the events.
Is there anything that we can tell as a trend in how they choose their victims? And I know this is difficult and it's different with each of the cases and individuals that we're looking at, because the woman that we're looking at here in Limpopo who was arrested yesterday for alleged insurance murders, the victims, different ages, also not all of them related to her, right? So, is there a trend there, or is it really at sometimes random decisions on who they target?
It's a mix of both, and again, this case has a lot of similarities to Rosemary, where the victims had relationships, although they were not necessarily blood relations or blood related. There were relationships with the accused. So, that's what we take a look at. But then there are other cases that we've seen where there were absolutely no relationships from a blood or a relationship point of view, but there were work relationships. So there were other reasons for them to incept policies on the individuals.
There was Agnes Atwanto. I'm sure you remember that story from February this year. 49 years old, accused of killing relatives in multi-million rand insurance scams. One of them, correct, her own child. It's a difficult one. Is there a psychology that we need to be talking about here around, what goes on with these attempted killings or killings?
100%. And in fact, just this week, I was actually reading the psychologist report done by Colonel Elmarie Myberg on the Rosemary case. And it clearly depicts an individual that has a psychological background. These individuals are serial killers. They are psychopaths. There's not something that can be done to correct their behavior. Their behavior needs to be curtailed. And that is the distinction that we're drawing, is that these individuals do not belong in society. We have to identify them and try and remove them in a more protected environment.
Yeah, I think about anyone who's watching this and then a family member has a policy out on them if they need to be concerned. It's a bit of a stretch, but if you are watching this and you're thinking, okay, this person may have what are the questions to ask when you are taking a policy out on someone and when someone is taking a policy out on you? Is there some power that we have there?
Yes, there is. And, normally there are checks and balances in place. However, it's relatively, I don't want to go into too much detail, but it's relatively widespread. We're talking about millions and millions of policies that are in place. Last year, the life insurance industry paid out 500 billion rand in insurance claims. That's a lot of money, so the percentage of fraud is incredibly small. But when we see a case like this one again, it picks up a lot of media interest, as you said. It creates this whirlwind of activity and of fear. And I think, people don't need to start looking at their husbands and wives and aunties and going, oh, have you got insurance out on me? It's one of those things that you unfortunately just can't control. It's like going to the shop and getting hijacked.
Yeah, scary. That's a scary thing that you just said. But we're going to move towards wrapping it up, Garth. I just want to hear your final thoughts on really what it is that needs to be done, whether it be from insurance companies, perhaps even SAPS, in being able to crack down on these crimes.
I think really our message is, as a community, we need to communicate. If somebody within the community sees activity where an individual has had multiple partners or family members that die under suspicious circumstances, pick up the phone, drop a line to our tip fraud line, speak to a person like Captain Mabunda, speak to your local SAPs, but talk to each other as a community. Don't sit back and go, oh, that's suspicious, and don't do anything about it. We often find that in hindsight, people go, oh, I thought that was suspicious. Rather be proactive, pick up the phone, talk to somebody, and let's work as a community to really protect each other in South Africa.
Yeah. Really important. Thank you so much for speaking to us, Garth. Insightful. Yeah, Garth de Klerk is, of course, the Insurance Crime Bureau CEO, speaking to us about really some of the trends that we see where insurance killings are taking place. And this is after yesterday afternoon, we saw a 43-year-old police officer arrested for her alleged masterminding of the murders of 6 people for 10 million rand in insurance payouts.